If you're looking to test your skills when it comes to working with JavaScript objects, then this is the perfect video for you. Hey, what's up? My name is Chris, and welcome to Coding in Public. In this video, I want to present to you some JavaScript challenges all about objects. We're going to be working with a bunch of array methods and object methods, obviously working with object properties and just kind of manipulating the data to return what we want. And this is really good practice for especially doing API calls and anytime you're working with large sets of data. All right, so what you can do is come to the repo in the description and either grab this link right here or click right down here as well. Either way, it will bring you to that branch. Then you can just come over here and grab the code and download the zip and open it up in your favorite code editor. That's what I've got over here. And you'll see I've got 3 files in here. This index.html file is just if you want to actually open this up in a browser. You could do like go live with something like live server. And then anytime you access anything in this main.js file, like if I come over here and say console.log, hi, then you'll see it shows up over here. So you can just console log things and see your data over down this way. The other thing you could do if you want to is come down below and open up your terminal locally here. And I could say like node, and then I could just run main.js. In this case, let's go ahead and return that console.log so we can see that. And I can console.log it. Except in this case, you'll notice that I need to actually set my type of module in a package.json file, which I don't have, or change it to an MJS extension. So you can do that as well. I'm actually going to do neither of those things and do a third thing instead, which is use an extension I have called Quokka. So let me pull this up here and just hit Command-Shift-P, and I'll do run on save for current file. It's going to pull up this output and basically allow me to console.log live right here in front of you, so I don't have to pull this up in something else. So it'll just make it a little bit faster, but you're welcome to use any of those methods that you want to. Now let's go ahead and look at a few other things. You'll see that we're pulling in both peeps and comments here, and that's from a file named data.js. So let me come in here and look at that. You'll see I've got peeps up here, and these peeps here have, let's see, like age 25. They have first and last names, but it's an array of objects. And then when it comes to comments, this is an object with objects inside of it. And you'll see here that each object is a key, which is the ID of the comment, and then the value, which is all the data about the comment itself. So we'll be referencing that as we get going. Also, you'll see that this is broken up into 2 different sections. So I've got easier challenges, and this is all using the peeps array. And then I've got harder challenges, which uses both of them. Now, this first section is mostly working with arrays, but just kind of dipping into the objects and grabbing out what you need or filtering them or that kind of stuff. What I'd encourage you to do is do all 7 of these, pause the video and do all 7 of these, and then come back and watch my solution. And you may find a better way of doing this. I'm not necessarily trying to get like the most optimized version ever. What I'm after is, can I get what I need from the prompt? And if you can do that, then it's okay if we did it differently. You may find something I did helpful, and I'm sure I'll find things that you did helpful. Leave a comment in the description if you find something that you feel like I didn't do as well as you did. Secondly, we've got this kind of second section of the video. And again, I would pause at that point and work through those and then come back and watch my solutions. Now, these get a lot more difficult as we get going, and so I'll do my best to explain kind of my thinking through these, but I'm going to be doing these live, and again, there may be more optimized ways of doing what I'm going to show you, and if you have an example or suggestion of that, just let me know what it is. I'd love to hear that in the description. Okay, well, without further ado, I'll let you pause the video and work on these first 7, and when you're ready, click play again. All right, hopefully you're back and you did a great job. I'm going to come in here and just kind of tick through these pretty quickly so we can spend more time on the harder challenges. So count the number of people in the people array. If I come back over here and move up top, it's just an array of objects. So all I need to know is the length of that array. So I'm going to console.log the peeps.length, just like that. And if I save it here, you'll see that I get Quokka telling me 3 here and 3 down here as well. So that'll work, and I'll console or comment that out so we don't have to see that. List full names of people in a new array. So here, let's see, it's a new array, so let's call it const new array. How about that? And then I'll say peeps, and what I want is just the full names, like first and last combined. So if I jump over here to my data, you'll see that each object has another object called name that has a first and last property. So we're just going to combine those. And if you want an array back from an array, the easiest way to do that is with a map, because maps return arrays by default. So I'm going to grab each P or person, and then in a string here, all I want is the p.name.first and then the p.name.last. If I did that correctly, let's grab this and console.log it. It should show Jared Smith, Jen Jones, and Terrence Adams. All right, perfect. Let's comment that out and then come up here, return true if everyone is older than 24. So let's do console.log. Let's see, I need my peeps. And then there's a method called every. And all I want to know is if each person, the is it p.age? Yeah, so the property of age, if it's over 24. So p.age is older than 24. And that should say true, and it does. Perfect. Comment that out. All right, return true if at least one person is younger than 26. So console.log peeps, and this time I can use something called sum. So all I want to know is there at least one? All right, a function that accepts up to 3 arguments. You can see here, determines whether a specific callback function returns for any element in the array. So if this is true for anybody in the array, it's going to say true. If it's true for nobody, it's going to say false. So what do I want? Well, let's look at each person, and I want to say p.age is younger than 26. If I save that, it should say true. If I come over here, I do have at least one. I see right here of 25, and none of those are. So just that one is enough to trigger this sum method to say true. All right, return a new array called young peeps, const young peeps, if all peeps are less than 30. So in this case, so it's a new array. Oh, of all the peeps less than 30. Okay, so I'm going to take my peeps. And in this case, because I'm running kind of a condition on them, I could do like a for each loop and like add it to an array and return all that, but filter will actually return an array for me as well. So let's filter over each of them. And the condition here is if each person, if their p.age is less than 30. And then let's console.log this down below. And I should see, I think just the two, right? 25 and 26. And I get their full object back, which is what I want. All right, sort the peeps by age from oldest to youngest in a new array called sorted peeps. So const sorted peeps equals, let's see. So each person, I want to filter, I want to sort off their age. Okay, so I think what I need to do, I'm going to take peeps. I can use the sort method here. And this takes in 2 arguments to start with, basically the first item and the second item, and then each successive kind of pairing. So usually these are just called A and B. And then I just have to take the property I want sorted and basically do some kind of math in here. So in this case, I think I'd want b.age minus a.age, I think. Let's see. All right, so my sorted peeps, I want oldest to youngest. Is that right? Oldest down to youngest. Okay, perfect. So what I've done is say, hey, sort all this, take the first and the second item, and then basically take the second and subtract the first. And that's the order I want you to put those in. So it'll either put it before or after that. The next time through, it'll take the first or the second item and the third item and do the same thing. And in the end, it will give me an array at the very end. It returns an array. The sort method does from oldest to youngest, which is what I want. All right, final one here. Create a new array called first name peeps with only the first names of the peeps. All right, so all I want to do is grab just that one property. So let's go peeps. In this case, because it's an array, I want to return an array. So map, I think, is the easiest way to do that. And all I want is my person. And I just want my person.name.first. And I think that's all I have to do. Let's see. Jen, Terrence, Jared. Perfect. All right, so again, hopefully that was easy enough for you to follow along. If that was challenging for you, you will definitely find these harder challenges more challenging, all right, and more difficult and maybe impossible, but watch it either way. I think you'll learn some things along the way. All right, if that was super easy for you, then hopefully these will be more of a challenge. List all the comments in an array of strings called comments array. Well, let's first of all look at our data here. If I come over here to my comments down here, again, I've got an object, and then I've got key and value pairs where the key is the ID of the comment and the value is an object with all that data about the comment. So let's come over here and grab const comments array equals list all the comments in an array of strings called comments array. So all I need is the text property of that internal object. So what I'm going to do, let's see, since I want an array, I'll do object.values, which should just give me a list of all of these objects in an array. And I'll pass in the comments object here. So just to make sure that that's what I'm getting, let's console.log this. And if I come over here, I've got an array of all the objects, one after the other. Then what I want is, let's see, I just want to map over these, right? Because I want to return, I want to return an array. So let's take a comment, we'll just call it C, and say c.text. And that should just give me an array of all the comments. Okay, one is down. Number 2, return all comments with the word love in the comment. All right, love comments. Const love comments equals object dot, and again, I just need the values. I don't need to know the ID of the comment necessarily. And we'll take the comment, and I want the comment dot text dot includes love. All right, if I did that correctly, I should be able to just console log this, and that did not work. So let's see what's going on. Well, I'll tell you what's going on. You got to actually pass in the object first of all, so comments, and then you got to do dot filter, which I think is what I wanted to do, and maybe even what I said I did, but I did not do that. All right, so now I should have anything with love in the text. Love here, love here. Is that the only loves I have? Yep, that's it. Okay, so that was correct. After I figured out what I was supposed to be doing, list all the comments in an array of strings called sorted comments array. So const sorted comments array from the lowest rating to the highest rating. Ignore comments without a rating. Okay. List all the comments in an array of strings. So I'm just going to get an array of strings at the very end of all this. And I just need the values again. So object.values. And I'm going to take my comments this time. Remember to do that. And then I'm going to sort these. Let's first of all filter. So, because I want to ignore comments without a rating. Because if I come back over here, you'll see that some of these don't have a rating. So this one doesn't have a rating. That might be the only one. So that's the one I want to ignore. So what I want to say is for each comment, it needs to have a rating. So that should give me, let's just double check. That should give me an array of all the objects. In this case, it will not have any that don't have a rating, and it doesn't. Okay, so now that I have all those, I can sort off that. Maybe let's space this out to make it a little easier to see. So we'll say sort. We're going to do the same thing, take A and B. And in this case, what I want to do is take A.rating minus B.rating. I think that's correct. And let's see, I want lowest to highest. So lowest rating is 1 and goes all the way to 5. Okay, cool. So that's kind of combining some of the things we've looked at in the past. All right, now return a new object called comment object. So const comment object with a comment ID as the key and the comment text as the value. Okay, so now we're getting a little bit more advanced here. So return a new object. So I want an object at the end of this, not an array. And I want the comment ID. Now, if I come back over this way, the comment ID is this key. So this comment ID is going to be the key, and the comment text will be the value. So in the end, it should look something like this, where I have an object, and in here I have like 1, 2, 3, and then I have the text like, hi, I'm a comment, all right? And then for each of these, it would be the exact same. So I could copy these down a bunch of times. That's what it should look like at the very end of this. So how do I get that? Well, first of all, I know I'm going to need both the key and the value. So the way you get that is object.entries, and then I'll do comments. Yeah, so that should give me, let's see, it should be an array of arrays, I think, is how that works. So yeah, I've got an array, and I've got arrays inside of this, where the first item, the 0 index, will be the key, and the 1 index will be the comment. All right, so I've got that. Now what I want to do, I think, the easiest way, because this is now an array, to get it back to a comment is going to be to use the reduce function. This is going to take two things. It'll take a callback, and then it will take an initial state. In this case, because I want it to be an object, I'm going to pass in an object to start with, and then it should basically more or less convert this back to an object. I think this will be the easiest way to do this. So this is going to have two items, two values in here. We're going to pass in the accumulator, which usually is just ACC is how that's abbreviated. So either that's the initial value that we've passed in down this way, or it's whatever the total value is that I'm going to be returning at the end of this, because reduce always returns one thing at the very end. So either way, and I'll kind of talk you through this in a second. And then the next thing I'm going to pass in is like the item I'm looping through. In this case, it's a comment. So let's just call it comment. I think that'll be easiest. Now this comment is going to have two things. You can see here it's got a key, which is the ID of the comment, and then a value, which is this object. So maybe let's just destructure those to make it a little bit cleaner. So we'll say key and value are coming from the comment. So that will give us the 0 and the 1 index, and we're going to just call them key and value because that's what they are. All right. And then what I'm going to do is each time I loop through this, I'm going to return an object. All right. And this object will take in whatever the cumulative value is. In this case, it could just be this empty object to start with, or it could be whatever the last iteration was. And then I'm going to say, hey, I want to grab the key or add to this object a key, all right, which is whatever the key is here. So like 123 or whatever. And then what I want to do is say that the value is going to be the value.text, all right, because this should be this entire object and I just want the text property here. So if I save that, it should be an object where each key and value pair is just the ID and the comment. Is that right? ID is the key and the comment text as the value. So yeah, that is correct. So you could kind of, if you wanted to, you could come in here and say comment 0. And then here you could say comment 1 text, and that should be the exact same thing. And then you could get rid of this. If you want to be a real hot shot, I guess you could come up here, and because you're returning an object, let's see, you do need those braces there, but you'd need to, if it's an implicit statement, so getting rid of this return, let's see, you would need this like that, and then you'd have to wrap this. So I think that would actually be the same thing as well. You just have to, have to get rid of that. All right, so I think that would also work. That's even a little bit more compressed. So however you want to do that, it's fine by me. All right, return a new object called grouped ratings. Const grouped ratings with the ratings as a key and, well, that's not right, and an array of comments that the rating as the value. So we're just grouping these by whatever the rating is. So if I come back over here, some of these will be rating 4, 5, 4. So I want to group all the 4s together, group all the 3s together, all the 5s together, all the 1s together. Obviously, if it doesn't have something, I don't want to group that because, let's see, do I say to do anything? No, I don't. So you can do whatever you want there, but I'm going to filter those out, I think. Yeah, I'm going to filter those out. So let's say, first of all, I need just the values. So object have values of the comments, and it's an object I'm returning. So let's do another reduce so that we can get an object back. And again, we'll pass in an arrow function, and the initial value will be an object. All right, then in this case, what I want is I can either filter earlier, so filter this initially, and just say, hey, it has to have a ratings or don't do anything with it. Or I can actually do that directly in here with like an if statement. So just if comment.rating. So if it doesn't exist, then go ahead and return the ACC, the accumulator. In this case, I need to pass that in. And the comment, the thing we're looping here, will be the second value. So it shouldn't do anything with that. Let's go ahead and grab this here and console.log that. In this case, I haven't done anything yet, so it's not sure what to do. I also need to return then at the very end of this at least an array or an object with the accumulator. So if I do that, it should be just an empty thing for now because that's all I've passed in and I haven't told it to do anything. All right, now what I want is the rating is the key and an array of comments with that rating as the value. So the key, let's go ahead and just grab that out as a constant. So what I want that to be is the comment.rating. So as I loop through, whatever the comment rating is, that will be the key I'm interested in. Then, let's see. Let's just call it like current group or something like that. And I want the accumulated value. If there is anything in there, I want to first of all say, hey, do I already have this key? If I do, then that's the current group. If I don't, then just give me an empty array like that. All right, then after I've returned whatever the current accumulated value is, then I want to tack onto that my key. All right, now that may already exist. And so if it does, what I want to do is take, let's see, the current group, cur group, like that, which in this case could be something that's already been passed in here, or it could just be an empty array. And then I want to also add on to it my comment, which should be my object. And I think that should all work. Let's look down here and I'll talk you through that one more time. So this should be grouped 1. I've got an array of objects. In this case, there's only one of them. Here, same thing for 3. 4, I've actually got 2. So you see 1 and 2 and 5, I've got the same, 1 and 2. So I'm grouping them by that ID. Now there's definitely a way we can compress this some. Maybe let's do that next. And and that might give me a chance to kind of chat you through a little bit more what we're doing here too. So I'm doing an initial check on this reducer function. I'm passing in two things here, this arrow function and then the initial value or the state of this reducer function. So the first time it loops through this, it's going to grab the key of whatever the rating is, so like 3 or 1 or whatever. And it's going to say, hey, kind of get this ready for me. All right. Next, what it's going to do is say, hey, does this already exist in the accumulation value? In this case, the very first time through, obviously it will not exist. So if it doesn't exist, it's just going to make this an empty array. Then what it's going to produce here is whatever the accumulated value is. So the first time it'll be an empty object, and then it will say, hey, tack on my key to that object. And I want the value to be either the current group, which would be an empty array, and then tack on my comment on the end. So the value, that object that I'm getting back. So maybe to make this a little easier, let's come in here and just console.log. Let me get rid of this one down here. And what I want is the key, the current group, oops, not that, the current group, and then let's see, the comment. And let's go ahead and tack on the ACC as well. All right, so let me go ahead and do that. Current group, oh, that's not right. Current group like that. All right, so here we go. So I'm gonna get these all one after the other. Let's see, I think, yeah, we'll just leave it like that. So the accumulated value is the very first time we're looping through, it's gonna be this. And you see that's what it is. Then the key, the first time I loop through, the first thing I loop through, evidently the key is 5. So now I know that's what I'm looking for. Because it doesn't yet exist on this empty object, it just gives me this empty array, which is what I'd expect. And then it tacks onto the end of this the comment, which is the entire object that I get passed in, which is all this. And you can see that that rating is equal to 5. Now the next time I loop through this, it starts with all of that returned data, which is right here. All right, so it says here, this is the accumulated value so far as I'm looping through this reducer. That should be this group number 5 with an array with one object in it, which is my comment. Then it says, hey, what's my current key? Well, the current key is 4. And then it says, do I have anything called 4 on this accumulated object so far? No, I don't. Okay, so give me an empty array and then pass in my comment. That's what I've got right here. All right, next time I come down through, now in this case, now I've got both of these things in this accumulated value. So that's what it shows me first, all the way up to here, all right? Then it says, hey, here's my key I'm interested in, 5. Then it asks right here, does this already exist? Now, unlike before, it actually does already exist because that was our very first rating was 5. So it passes back all of that right here as the current group. And then again, the current comment is just the object that comes in. So in this case, when it ends up returning here, it says, give me all of this right here, the current accumulated value, tack onto it this key, which already happens to exist. So spread all of that current stuff in right here, and then just add to it my current comment. And that's what you'll see down here. So I've got 4 with just one item in it, but now 5 is going to have the original, kind of the very first one I looped through, and now the third one I looped through that I've just tacked on. So hopefully that makes sense walking you through that. And again, I can compress this a little bit more. So for instance, let's see, if you wanted to get real hot shot, I guess you could get rid of all of this, and you could come in here and just say something like comment.rating. And then in here, what you do is say the ACC, the accumulated value so far, and then comment, let's see, comment.rating like that, or an empty array. So it's the same thing, just compressed way more. And that should give me the same value if I go ahead and console log this out. Yeah, there we go. So again, that should be grouped by rating 3, let's see, 1, 3, 4, and 5. All right, hopefully that made sense. We're going to be using that reduce again here because we have to return the average rating of all the comments. Now, this is both a little more challenging and also a little shorter. So it's both at the same time, but it just takes a little bit of thinking through what this you'll need here. So let's call this something like average rating. We'll say object.values because, again, we don't need the keys in this case. And I want the comments. Then I want to reduce here, and I'm going to grab both my, let's see, let's just call it the accumulated again and the comment. And this is going to be an arrow function. And in this case, I'm going to start my average at 0, all right, because it's a number I'm wanting in the end. I guess you wouldn't technically have to do that, but I think I'll just do that here. Now, what I want to do is return the accumulated value plus or equal to the comment.rating, and that may not exist. So if it doesn't exist, I'd want it to be 0. And so I think I can just do another OR here and say 0. So add 0 to it in that case. And then let's just see what I've got so far. So let me go ahead and comment this or console log this out. Average rating is 22. Well, that's obviously not average yet. I'm just adding them all up. So let's just kind of mentally do that math real quick. So if I come over here, I've got a 4, a 5, that's 9. Another 4 is 13. Another 3 is 16. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Oh, no, this is user ID. So what was that? 22? What do I have down here? 22. Okay, so that's right so far. Now what I need to do is divide this, all right? So what I need now is to divide this at the very end of this reducer. So after it's done all together, I'll say object.values, and I'm going to grab my comments. And what I want is to filter, first of all, because I don't want things without a rating. They'll skew my averages. So I'll say as long as it has a rating, then what I want to do is grab the length of this final thing, all right, the final array. So it should be 3.666, all right, something like that. So again, what I've done here is I basically, let's get rid of this for a second. What I've done is I've grabbed the returned value here, and I could compress this a little bit more. If I get rid of that and that, that's a little confusing with the 0 right next to it, but I just now have an implicit return. So I'm adding them all up first of all, and then I'm going to go ahead and divide them by the length of the entire array. Except in this case, I want to make sure I filter out stuff without a rating so it doesn't mess that up. If I did, let's save it so we see that. If I did remove this here, then I would get the length of everything, including ones without a rating at all, which would not give me an accurate number. Return average rating, yeah, because the other ones don't have a rating, or that one doesn't have a rating. All right, hopefully that makes sense. Let's get rid of that. We've got one more left. Group all comments by the user who made the comment. Return a new object called group peeps comments. So comments group peep comments. So in this case, I have to work with both the peeps array and the comments object. All right, with the user's first and last name as a string key, the value of each object should be an array of comment objects by the person. Hopefully I can decipher this. Hopefully you have been able to as well. So what I want here is object.values to start with, and I want my comments, and then I'm going to use another reducer here. So what I want is reduce, and again, I'm going to take my accumulated value, and in this case, we'll just call it a comment as well. And again, this is an arrow function, and I'm returning at the end of all this an object, right? A new object. Yep. Okay, so that's good. Then what I want is I want to know the peep's name. All right. So let's just say like const peep. All right. And then what I want to do is grab my peeps array, and I want to find on it the peep who has the p.id that equals to my comment.user ID. All right. Because if I look over here, yeah, the user ID here, 3, should point to the ID, let's see, here of 3. All right, so basically what I'm doing is connecting those two. So console.log the peep, like that. That should give me the first and last name. So it gives me the entire object of that peep. Now in this case, the only thing I care about is their first and last name. So I want that to be my key, right? It's a string key with the first and last name. So what I'm going to do is do something very similar to what we did up above. Maybe let's just copy that. Where was that? All right, we had the first and last name. Thought I had that somewhere. First, last name. No? I don't know. I thought it was up there. Maybe not. All right, so what I want is in backticks here, my peep.name.first, and then my peep.name.last. And if I were to console.log this key right here, you can see now I've got the key Jared Smith, Terrence Adams, Jen Jones, etc. All right, so now I've got my key. Now I need to get the value. And the value should be the object. Each object should be an array of comment objects. So anytime they've commented, I want that to be included in an array down here below. So we're going to do something very similar to what we did up above. So we'll say const, let's call it current group as well. And I'll take the accumulated value and say, hey, does this key exist? Does the person already exist? If so, give me that. Otherwise, give me an empty array. And then I'll just return the accumulated value here, spread this into an object, and then I'll take the key, assuming it exists. Great. If it doesn't, then I've just got an empty array. Either way, I'm going to spread in whatever that is, current group, I'm going to tack on the end of that, let's see here, inside this array here, the comment. All right, I think that should be correct. And if I come over here and console log this out, got to move this down here, like that. What I should have is this grouped by each person. So here's the key. The value is an array with all of their comments. So this guy commented twice. Terrence commented multiple times. And you can see the user ID 3. So that's all the same thing. And so that's how I know that this is all accurate. Jen Jones commented 1 time, and best service ever, rating 5. Thanks, Jen. All right, so hopefully that made sense, and I'll walk you through that real briefly here just to make sure that squares again. This is kind of the same thing we did before, just with the addition of making the key, instead of something from the object that we're getting, making it like related to another data set, the array of people. So in this case, that key is the first and last name. The current group, I'm saying, hey, does this key exist on my accumulated value so far? If so, then give it to me. If it doesn't, then just give me an empty array. Then each time I'm returning as I work through this reduce loop, I'm saying give me whatever the accumulated value is so far. And then what I want is that key, assuming it exists. And if it doesn't, then I've got this empty object, but I've already got the text here, which is going to be the first and last name. Spread in the values of that right here. So it's taking this and dumping it in here. It might be an empty array, in which case it would also just be dumping it in there. Otherwise, what I want is just to tack on my comment. Or I guess in addition to that, I want to tack in my current comment, which is the entire object of that comment that I'm looping through. All right, again, hopefully that makes sense. Like I said, these get a little bit more complex as you get going. Again, if there's some way that you would do some of this different, let me know what it is. Again, there's no magic sauce to this. There are lots of ways to accomplish the same thing in JavaScript, and this is just the way I chose to do it this time. I hope that was a big help to you and that the process of working through that kind of exposed areas where you might need to work. To be transparent, the last time I did a live stream, I tried to use a reducer function live, and I was just struggling with it. So I thought, hey, I need to really work on this. Let me just go ahead and put some challenges together, and hopefully that was helpful for you as well. Hey, well, thanks so much for watching. As always, if you liked the video, give me a like, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments as well. All right, thanks so much. I'll catch you in the next one. Happy coding.